Welcome back to Mental Wellness Evolution. I'm Jeff, and thanks for being here. Today we're talking about the value of doing the work on ourselves. Okay, guys? So we really need to start looking ourselves in the mirror as men sometimes and just being like, okay, maybe I can be a little bit better than I am right now. We got to get past this whole just I am the way I am type of stuff and actually start holding ourselves to a higher level of accountability, to a higher standard in order to be better for everyone around us in the world. And for ourselves. It's important that we do this work for ourselves too, guys, because a lot of us have a lot of things within ourselves and addictive behaviors and repressed emotional states and anger and frustration and things that we just kind of bury within ourselves. And then it leads into trouble in our everyday lives. So we need to start looking at ourselves and looking at ways that we can go about being the best version of ourselves that we want to be. I think we need to challenge each other and challenge ourselves to do this work on ourselves, to go about whatever changes we need to make and facilitate in our lives in order to be the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be. And I think it's important that we do this kind of work and we look at it as much as we can without the context of every single day, because as we do this throughout our day-to-day lives, we're going to gain awareness about who we are, digging into ourselves, doing some shadow work, maybe even reaching out to a therapist if we need to, but just being honest with ourselves. Am I the best man that I could be? And if I'm not, what ways can I go about making those changes in order to be the type of man that I'd like to become? Maybe you need to just look out and see what type of man in the world that you admire and respect and see, hey man, how could I go about being more like that person in the world? For myself, that was my grandfather, was that guy for me. I love my grandpa to this day. I miss him very, very dearly. But growing up, I spent a lot of time with my grandpa. And he was a man that I really held in the highest esteem. He was, very kind and caring and compassionate and firm when he needed to be, but he was also very loving and very, he would slow down and teach me stuff, and I really appreciated him. And he was the type of man that I wanted to grow up and actually be like. So start looking for men in the world who you admire, what traits do they have? What can you take from them that you could maybe bring into your own reality, into your own life, that's going to help you to improve yourself as a man? Start looking at some of your behaviors, guys. We need to look at some of the things we're doing that are self-destructive. In a lot of ways, myself, I can say this unequivocally, for many years, I was my own worst enemy. I contributed to my own suffering. I didn't look myself in the mirror and say, hey, you're killing yourself. I always found a way to escape, and we do this in various different ways. We go about it with drugs and alcohol, gambling, sex, pornography, overspending, whatever it is that we can do to kind of avoid having to deal with kind of what's going on inside of ourselves. But the reality is, guys, if we start doing the work, the internal work, that deep dive internal work, and we start getting these things out of us, then life becomes so much better, because you're not waking up every single day with these frustrations and these things going on inside of you that you're not taking the time to look at, that you're not taking the time to take a deep dive into to get that garbage out of us. And it's not going to go away, guys. This is something that is going to stay with you for the entirety of your life. It's never going to change until we decide to do the work on ourselves and actually change it. And a lot of that comes with us getting back in touch with our emotional states and starting to understand them. Because as men, the emotion that shows up the most for men is anger. Okay, my therapist used to joke that men are only allowed to feel two emotions: angry and horny. Horny we have no problem expressing lots of times, but anger is usually a manifestation of a deeper emotional wound, something like grief or sadness, or you're not feeling like you're good enough, or you're not feeling like people are noticing or paying attention to you, or whatever. There's usually something buried underneath that anger, and if we can get to the root of that emotional state, as a byproduct, the anger that keeps coming up as a result of it starts to dissipate. It starts to go away. We don't get as frustrated because we don't have these things that are going on within ourselves that we really need to take a look at and deal with. But instead of doing it, we run away to the addictive behaviors. And as men, we're very, very ego-driven. We're very, very mind-driven. And that's what we do, is we get out of our bodies and we go back inside of our minds. So getting in touch with being inside of our bodies again, learning the mind-body connection, doing things that are going to help you facilitate the mind-body connection. One of the greatest ones for this is the gym. I will advocate for that all the time, because you really can get into the gym and you start feeling the muscle contractions, and as you're doing reps and stuff like that, you start getting back inside of our bodies. And that's an important thing we got to work on as men too, is establishing that mind body connection again. Because I said, we get into our heads because we were never taught, a lot of us, And it's not our fault, guys. Like, I'm not trying to shame anybody for any of this type of thing. A lot of us were just never ever really taught properly how to deal with our emotional states, how to handle things, how to, sit in the discomfort of an emotional state without offering a subconscious reaction where we're blowing up in anger and things like that. We were never taught how to facilitate it. Many people, like especially my generation, we were taught big boys don't cry, suck it up, be a man, things like that. And we learn to repress, we learn to repress, we learn to repress. And a lot of those things that we've repressed are coming forward in our lives, and they're causing us stress and duress and crap on a day-to-day basis. But we can do the work on these things, guys. We can get to work on those things within ourselves and ultimately deal with them in healthy ways so that they're not affecting us moving forward. And then as we start to do this work, guys, as we start to get these things out of us, we start to have a better outlook on life. We start not being, so reactive and things like that in the world. We start putting aside some of these unhealthy behaviors and coping mechanisms because we don't need to run away and escape our lives anymore. We're not running away from things anymore. All of a sudden we find ourselves being more mindful, more present, more content in ourselves, more confident. Those types of things will start to manifest within you as you start to do the work on yourself. I know myself, like I really went into a deep dive within myself. I've done tons of shadow work and therapy and just being honest with myself about some of the things that were going on inside of me, and then bringing in those healthy behaviors that actually helped me foster that worth, that confidence within myself. Going to the gym, eating healthy, getting back in shape, learning about my emotional states, learning how to self-regulate, learning not to repress and it's okay to express, and finding safe havens and good men around me and things like that. These are things we have to do, guys. This is how we have to go about this if we're going to make changes within ourselves. But it starts with us being willing to actually do the work on ourselves. We have to look inside the mirror and just be like, you know what? There's things within me that I need to improve on. There's things that I can be better at. There's things that I could go about making changes in my life so I'm not this type of person. So my wife has a better partner. So my mother has a better son. So my children have a better father. So my brothers have a better, stronger, healthier brother around them. Okay, guys? We take that responsibility. We start holding ourselves accountable. Set a standard. Like I said, find those guys that you admire and make that the standard. That's who I want to be like. And I'm going to do what I have to do to be like that man in my life. And we go about it day by day by day by day, guys. It's a process. We need to work at this every day. Little bits, little steps. We talk about little steps leading to big changes, and they absolutely do. It takes time. But go about this. Be gentle, be kind to yourself, be compassionate with yourself, understanding that you're trying to change and it's not just going to happen. It's very challenging to get over some of the subconscious programmings and the way things that we've always done it. But the more we go about this, the better we're going to feel. The better we're going to feel, the more motivated we're going to be to keep going. The more motivated we're going to be, we get the momentum going, and it becomes easier to keep that momentum rolling down the track. Okay, guys? So start looking yourself in the mirror. Start being very honest with yourself, not to judge yourself, but just to look at yourself and be like, you know what, I'm very reactive with my partner. That's something I need to work on. You know what, I express anger often when I'm at work, and that's something I need to work on. I'm not really as present with my children as I could be because I'm lost in my thought processes. That's something I'm work on. I'm spending too much time drinking or something like that. That's something that I could back off on, and these are going to help me to be the best version of myself that I can be. And then work on getting guys in place and people around you that you know are going to help you on this journey, because having a band of brothers beside you that's pushing you and supporting you and wants to inspire you to be that type of man is going to be invaluable throughout the process of this change and this work, guys, okay? So let's get to work on each other. Let's work on bringing healthy masculinity back into the world together as brothers. We can support each other, push each other, inspire each other. And before you know it, like I said, where all the boats rise with the tide. The more we rise the tide, the better our boats are going to sail on the oceans, and the better we're going to be in the world for everybody else around us. And that gift of working on ourselves becomes a gift not only to ourselves, but it becomes a gift to all the people that we love in the world. Have a great day, guys.